Hey, and welcome to FTW Philly, presented by Temple University. I'm your host, Marissa Magnata, and sharing the screen here with me is my co-host, Rosemary Kelly. How are you doing? How are you enjoying this winter wonderland we've been experiencing?
Oh, Marissa, it's been so much fun. I absolutely love the snow, but I have a feeling you've been having a lot more fun than most in the snow.
I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe we'll get to that a little bit later on because we have so much on this episode to talk about. We're going to break down the best villains in gaming of all time. Are you ready? Are you prepared to talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Plus, the psychology of gaming, why you play, why you want to play, and why you play so much. But before then, we have some esports news to jump into. Please, get us started.
If you remember last week's episode of For the Win Philly, we gave you a little bit of a preview of what the Valorant Champions Tour is going to look like for this season. This past weekend, we saw the first iteration of the closed qualifiers for North America hosted by Nerdstreak Gamers. This past weekend, we saw the top 8 teams from the open qualifiers fight it out in the Challengers closed qualifiers. During some intense competition and close matches, we saw the top 4 teams separated from the best of the best, who will move automatically onto the second Challengers closed qualifiers on February 18th to the 21st. Those 4 teams are Sentinels, Immortals, Luminosity, and XSET. In the top 4, we still had to crown a champion, and it was Sentinels coming out on top, despite getting dropped into the losers bracket by Luminosity early on in the competition. What an amazing comeback to take down Immortals not once, but twice in the grand finals during the bracket reset. European League of Legends has a rich rivalry history, and it's no surprise that LEC picked a match of the week that would honor just that, and particularly in this instance, the rivalry between G2 and Fnatic. Since the 2019 summer split, G2 and Fnatic have taken the top 1 and 2 spots, duking it out in multiple regional finals. Usually, it's G2 that comes out on top. However, this past week proved everyone around the world that Fnatic has what it takes to take down the giant that is G2. A great start for Fnatic during the 2021 LEC season, and we can't wait to see where they go from there. So here's something a little weird. We're going from talking about the team Fnatic to talking about the merchandise company Fanatics. In late 2018, Activision Blizzard selected the merchandise company Fanatics as its official merch partner for the Overwatch League. However, fans were unhappy with the partnership, calling the designs uninspired and questioning the quality of the merch. Good news for Overwatch League fans and myself included, Activision Blizzard and Fanatics called off the partnership, which has led to an influx of fan-inspired merch ideas and calls to bring back designs a la inaugural Overwatch League season. While there's been no comment about the partnership, at the end of January, the San Francisco Shock announced a new partnership with MetaThreads, which leaves a lot of people hopeful for the merch they want and deserve. For our last news of the day, Ubisoft has announced its 2021 plans for Brawlhalla Esports, which includes 5 international tournaments as well as $1 million in the prize pool ecosystem. Brawlhalla is Ubisoft's fighting game that is cross-platform, and you can compete on any device that supports the game. The first tournament is the Winter Championships, taking place February 27th to March 14th, followed by the Spring, Summer, and Autumn Championships throughout the 2021 calendar year, eventually leading up to the World Championships in November. That's it for the esports headlines. Still to come, we've got Darth Mike bringing you all the latest in gaming news on Field of View, which includes an interesting story about Terraria and their partnership with Google Stadia.
Welcome to Field of View with Nerdstreak Gamers, your weekly dose of gaming news. I'm Darth Mike, coming to you live from the rolling 2D hills of Terraria, and I've been out here crafting up some scoops for you, so let's get into the news. Speaking of Terraria, we've got one of the more bizarre stories of this new year. Terraria developer Andrew Spinks has declared that his game will no longer be listed on Google Stadia due to a falling out with Google. Specifically because he's been locked out of his Google account, the Terraria account. They've frozen the Terraria YouTube channel, they've frozen his email, his Google Drive, and apparently his phone account as well. He claims that there's no reason he would have violated their terms of service, and it's really kind of hard to imagine what he possibly could have done to deserve this treatment, but after being locked out for 3 weeks, he's had enough and is pulling the game from the platform entirely. It's another L for Google Stadia, as they just recently announced they would stop developing games for their own platform, and at this point, it's starting to become hard to see what Stadia actually has going for it. If it's going to lose developers to bad customer service from Google, it is going to be very hard for this platform to survive. Treyarch has officially introduced the League Play game mode to Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Now, League Play is a game mode that mirrors the format of the Call of Duty League, the professional esports play itself, with a limited stripped-down format and restricted equipment that can be used in the game. This then gives the amateur players a chance to battle up the leaderboards, earning points for wins and consecutive wins, and losing points towards their rank for each loss, encouraging players to take the game seriously and play towards an objective. It's a great idea and a great marriage between the amateur couch playing side of the game and the more professional esports side, and anything that builds bridges between those two audiences is great in my book. Now we just need to see how Treyarch does with the implementation in the game itself, because if it comes out a little rocky, we could see some angry customers. There's a new multiplayer survival game taking the gaming world by storm, and if that sentence sounds familiar, well, you're not alone. This one comes with a Viking flavor. It's called Valheim, and it sees you and up to 9 of your friends put into a Norse-inspired world where you do battle against mythical creatures, build up your longhouse settlement, explore, sail, fight, battle, all to earn the favor of the gods. The game is in early access, but it's exploded up the Steam charts already, largely driven from views from Twitch, from streamers and influencers, in another example of the power of influencer marketing in our day and age. Now, there is an ambitious content plan for new features that are being added into the game, but there's already a lot to like in this. So if what I've described whets your appetite, you can hop in now and enjoy the content as it comes. There might be another Halo game in the works, folks, and I'm not talking about Infinite. 343 Industries, the current publishers of the Halo series, have posted a job listing looking for a producer for a new project in the Halo universe. Now, that is literally all the information we have to go off of now, but this is an exciting idea. Spin-offs have been a thing in the Halo universe before. We've seen games like Halo Wars, the RTS, but this could be something new entirely. Now, we've got no more information for now, but you can trust we'll be keeping our energy swords sharp and be ready to bring you any new news. We've got some details about Battlefield 6, and if they prove to be true, they are ambitious and exciting. EA has been teasing some details about the game, saying that it should be ready for holiday 2021, and some leaks have come out that seem to imply there might be fully destructible cities. Now, the image that we got was of a destructible city from way back in an old Battlefield game, one destructible building that was a particular set piece, but the implication is that they might be bringing the destructible environments from previous games to the next level and taking a whole urban landscape where everything is game to be taken down. Can you imagine needing to capture a point and instead of going in with heavy artillery or a weapon, you drop a skyscraper on them? The possibilities are endless. This is one of those I'll believe it when I see it type of situations. I suspect it's going to be a bit more limited in scope than our imaginations have taken it so far, but who knows, Dice, I'm ready for you to surprise me. That's it for this week on Field of View with Nerd Street Gamers, your weekly dose of gaming news. Now, I've been away from home for a little while now collecting these scoops, so it might be time for me to be getting back in. Oh God, what is that? Oh!
So Marissa, it looks like we're getting some really interesting changes to the Call of Duty League for 2021.
Yeah, how do you feel about them changing it up to 4v4 and taking away that 5th player?
It's really interesting because the majority of the competitive history I have with Call of Duty has always been looking at it at a 5v5 format, but I think changing it up to 4v4 could be really interesting for the viewership experience.
Yeah, that's fun. I like it when they change up rules and change the game a little bit. Keeps it interesting. Well, I'm going to keep this interesting because coming up next, we have one of the best lists we've ever come up with. It is the best video game villains ever, and we're going to give it to you in a minute.
What's up, guys? Sir Scrowlix here with Loading Screen, and I am visited by None other than Jacob Ferreira, the co-host of Loading Screen. There's a lot of really cool villains in video games, but you can't help but love that they are a villain. It's kind of hard to not enjoy what they do.
Let's rank the best and worst villains. Like, who's really good at being a villain? Who's not so good at being a villain?
Right. So starting off the bat, we're doing
This is a chunky boy.
we're doing King K. Rool from Donkey Kong.
I don't like his minions, which are basically the skinny version of him.
They really are. Well, except for the big
Do you
chubby
think
dude.
it's like,
the big chubster?
oh,
Bowser.
this guy? Okay. Honestly, of all the bad guys in the history of bad guys, I think this guy, Bowser, is the
Most
worst.
iconic,
Bro,
by far.
imagine some guy's life goal is to steal the woman you love. But not just that, okay?
You're right.
Oh, baby.
That's not the only thing he's doing.
So he's got castles. He's got a big ship. Is he overcompensating?
He's got a big clown car.
And he sends a bunch of people to kill you. Like, this has got to be the worst bad guy ever.
But imagine though, at the same time, every other weekend, the guy that's stealing your girlfriend, you decide to invite him to go play golf or party with you, or just go play
I didn't
Mario
even think
Kart.
about that.
Mario doesn't. I think he lives for it. They need each other, otherwise they're done.
I'm gonna have to say he's up there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's hard not to knock it.
Because
Bowser, he's just great.
What a royal pain in the rear end.
Really, seriously. This is Giovanni from Pokemon.
Pokemon.
The leader of Team Rocket. Did you know that he did insurance fraud with a blimp? Tom Nook from Animal Crossing?
I don't even want to look at this guy. I don't even want to look at this. Tom Nook, more like Tom Crook. I haven't played much Animal Crossing, but I played enough to know that this guy
He only cares about himself.
only.
And
He's
he is a child labor too. His children always work. They never sleep. It's awful.
He's like, I'm gonna give you this really nice plot of land where you can build this really nice house. Don't worry about paying me for
Hey,
it.
that's fine.
Just pay it off in a loan.
Pay it off later.
fine.
The next day he says, oh, by the way, that's $20,000. And then afterwards that'll be 50.
You're like, I just paid off the 20,000. Sweet, well, we've got a new upgrade for you. Honestly, 9 out of 10 in my book. You know, some people will say he's friendly though. Don't listen
not.
to that. You can't trust this.
He's not friendly. He's just a jerk. Okay.
These are bad guys?
These are the Koopa Troopas from Paper Mario.
They look so fun here. I've got a question.
Yeah.
If a bad guy smiles, does it make him less bad? Because they look friendly there.
They really do look friendly.
Which kind of is
Yeah.
off-putting. I don't know if I want my evil villain smiling.
So, Dynasty Warriors, I talk with Alex a lot. That's one game that we share in
Love
common.
that game. Hack and
This
slash
is
game.
not the traditional main villain you'd think, but
No.
Dong Zhao, he's bad enough that
He's
every single
he's
family.
the elephant dude, right?
Yeah, every single family decides to team up on him because they're afraid that he's gonna end up ruling.
He's like the crazy dude that you don't want in
Yeah,
chart.
he's the main antagonist for the first 3 chapters, and people still talk about him.
This
after
is
he finally
nuts,
died.
man.
There's nothing more satisfying than a villain that you actually want to beat
Yeah.
up. It's just,
Yeah.
it's great once he finally gets to that fight.
Damn! Look at this guy. He's like a
Dr.
cannonball on 2 sticks.
Now, I want you to think back to when you were in middle school or high school, right? It's summer. You've been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's a great time. You're having so much fun. And then a guy you've trusted the whole campaign just, because of a harsh betrayal. One that you didn't see coming at all.
I'm about to jump through the TV right now,
Oh
dude.
my gosh. I remember thinking though, going into the mission when you're chasing him on the snowmobile, he was so awesome. And then you're finally
Yeah.
in Rust, you're in the desert, you're walking up to him and you think you're gonna lose too. And then you get him.
That was one of the few times in gaming where when that happened, I was like, yes!
Yeah.
You
I'm
know?
like, finally!
Yeah.
He got what he deserved.
Oh, 10 out of 10, that guy.
10 out of 10, I agree.
10 out of 10.
I
He
agree.
hit me hard.
Oh, Alex. Okay, so you were talking about Final Fantasy
What?
all the time, right? This is the best Final Fantasy villain. Kefka from Final Fantasy VI. All right, so Kefka the clown. You see him in the first 5 minutes, and then throughout the game, think of him as, he's not the main villain at first. He's like a general,
Yeah.
but everyone fears him because of how cruel he is. People call him like the clown of death.
Clowns make good villains, like the Joker.
Yeah,
for
the
example.
Joker's great. I think it's the laugh. The laugh is what makes them iconic. Like, and especially because this was like a 16-bit kind of game or like a 24-bit on the Game Boy Advance, so when he laughed, it'd be like, this guy, he actually rules the world. He actually does it. He becomes a god. The whole world goes in a wasteland, and all the like 30 members that you got throughout the game, they're all separated. So you wake up then and you're like a different one of those 30, and now you have to find everyone. You can choose at any point to fight Kefka, but you know you need all your buddies.
So what would you rate him?
I would undoubtedly 10, first of all, but I think he's my favorite villain.
He's your favorite villain?
100%, yeah.
Out of all of these, what do you got?
Kefka number 1 for me, by far.
Yeah.
Who would your number 1 be? I'm still trying to think how I would rate all these guys.
This one's hard because like when I think of bad guys, I kind of try to think of like who resonated with me the most. Bowser was the bane of my existence. The one that gets under my skin so much is Tom Nook. Tom Nook is a crook.
100%, he's a crook. Yeah, you're just indebted to this dumb
Every
little
time I
raccoon.
talk to this guy, I get pissed off. Capitalism at its finest, ladies and
It
gents.
really is.
Man! Whoo-wee! I'm out. I can't do this.
Necker, was your favorite villain or most hated villain on the list?
It absolutely was. For me, it's like a little bit of a tie, though, because Bowser was definitely a villain that they talked about, but what about Ganondorf? How can you miss Ganon?
Well, yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Well, mine, there's 4 of them. Inky, Pinky, Blinky, and Clyde. Like, those villains haunted my dreams forever. Who controls them? Who knows? There's a pattern to how they move. I could never figure it out. They still haunt me.
I love it so much. Our video game villains are just one of the ways that we enjoy video games. But what about the psychology behind why we enjoy video games? We're going to be talking about that coming up next.
For over 5 decades, video games have been a staple for entertainment across all ages, cultures, genders, and even geography. Whether it's the thrill of leveling up, the hype of competition, or simply the joy of playing with friends, there are many reasons why video games have risen in popularity throughout the years. To get to the root of it all, we ask the very simple question, why do we play video games? Psychologists have long studied this phenomenon, and while there are many theories and studies out there, we turn to author and behavioral psychologist Scott Rigby, who has focused his research by examining this question through the framework of the self-determination theory.
Self-determination theory defines what are called basic psychological needs. Psychological needs for autonomy, for competence or mastery, and for relatedness. And it turns out that these are basic needs that we all share. They operate across all areas of life. And a lot of what we looked at is how do games in particular satisfy these needs as a way to understand their strong motivational pull.
Let's break down the 3 components of the self-determination theory by world-renowned researchers Edward L. Deci and Richard M. Ryan. Firstly, autonomy. This is defined as the need to experience behavior as voluntary and reflectively self-endorsed, or in other words, to feel like we have control over what we do.
Autonomy has to do with our desire to feel like we are the authors of our lives. In some ways, we're the hero of our lives, that the things we're doing, we endorse, and we're engaged volitionally in what we're doing. And so that is operating very much whenever we feel we have choice over what we're going to do with our lives and how we're going to grow and develop. And you can already see how video games in particular create a very fertile field for feeling like you're the hero, feeling like you're making choices, and feel like you're developing in the way that you want to develop.
Second is competence, defined as the need to experience our behaviors as effectively enacted or to feel like we've done a good job.
And that's simply our desire to feel like we're successful in what we're doing. When we're engaging in a task, we want to nail it, we want to crush it. And we also want to feel a sense of growth. We don't just want to be doing the same thing over and over, whether it's in our lives or a hobby. We want to feel that sense of development. This is where games provide really powerful mechanics, right? Every single moment in a game, you have the opportunity to get feedback that you're crushing it. And also, if the game is done well, you see your progress and your growth and your skills and your abilities, which then unlock new opportunities to crush it further.
Lastly, there is relatedness, or the need to interact, be connected to, and experience caring for others.
This is the need we all have to feel that we matter to other people in our lives, whether we're at work or playing a sport or hobby or in video games. We want to feel like we matter to people and that we're contributing to others' success and they're contributing to our success. And of course, when you think about video games, there's tremendously deep opportunities for that. As gamers know, we're working together as a team. We're each taking on different roles. We're relying on each other. The mechanics of the game, when they're done well, help bring us together in a shared goal that really can deepen that feeling of relatedness.
Video games do have the right pieces to satisfy our basic human needs and desires, but it's also important to distinguish that gamers all subconsciously prioritize these needs in different ways.
One of the things we know about looking at populations of video game players is that as a general rule, they're not all the same.
That's Gabe Zickerman, author, speaker, and expert on gamification and game design.
Not every player who plays a competitive team-based shooting game is necessarily winning focused. They may be there for many different reasons, right? Folks who play esports, of course, they love to win and they want to get prizes and get the acclaim and affirmation, but also they like the social aspect of their squad and their team. If all you cared about was winning, but didn't care about the social aspect, there's lots of easier things that you could be doing with your life to accomplish that. So I think it's important to remember that everybody has their own motivation set. We can't generalize that winning is the priority.
If video games satisfy our basic human needs, does that mean that video games are good for us? The danger is that we might neglect our basic psychological needs in real life, and instead of trying to gain competency, autonomy, and relatedness in our own life, we search for it through a game.
The question of whether or not video games are good or bad for us, I think is the wrong question to be asking. I think the right question to be asking is really, are you in a position to play games as much as you play them? We can all say that, it's fine to have one drink when you go out on Friday night, or maybe 2 drinks or 3 drinks, but 17 drinks every single night of the week is a problem. There's no reason why video games don't also fall into that category. Games produce positive reactions in people and negative reactions in people. They can be played reasonably by people who are kind of extremists. And so the key thing is to figure out some amount of balance where you're not spending more money, time, effort than you can afford to spend on the games you play.
Ultimately, video games are just one of the many things that can be studied through the self-determination theory, but are certainly a great barometer for examining our motivations for gaming. But let's be honest, did you really need a scientific reason to reach for that controller?
Honestly, Marissa, watching that segment makes me just want to spend the entire weekend playing video games that much more. But I gotta ask you something.
Yeah?
What in the world is the psychology behind this?
All right, I just get really bored and I get so excited when it comes to snow. I turn into a little kid. And hand me a set of stairs and a snow tube, and what else are you gonna do? I don't know, the X Games were on, I was watching that a lot. Let's take it. All right, well, on that note, for Rosemary Kelly and the whole crew behind FTW Philly, presented by Temple University, I'm Marissa Magnotta, and if I live through this weekend, we'll see you next time.